Hello there, welcome to Riot Act Reviews, the Riot Act Podcast's designated review section. We are a podcast about music. My name's Stephen Hill. His name's Remfry Deadman. How you doing, Remfry? You bloody big old thing, you big sex pest.
Oh, very accurate. Yeah, I'm all right, man. Apart from just being called a sex pest, my day is going fine. Thank you very much.
Better than mine.
Yeah.
Better than mine. Yeah. But that is utterly irrelevant to this podcast. It has to be said. This is a show, as I said, where Remfry and I pick an album of some note or notoriety, and we go through that album and we talk about it and give it its own designated little podcast, which is what we're going to do right now. Today we're going to be talking about Venom Prison's Erebos, the third, not counting that last one, full-length album from the Welsh-Russian death metal, hardcore, deathcore band. I've thrown a lot of things in there. Some of them are right, some of them are wrong, some of them could be disputed, some of them could be considered up for debate. Do you want to debate any of those things?
Well, let's stick with death metal for the moment, because I think that is absolutely the foundation of their sound, and that is absolutely what they are and what they have been up to this point. Most definitely, I think that's fair to say.
Happy with third album?
Yes, most definitely. I'm glad you didn't say this was the fourth, because we're referring to Primeval, isn't it? Which was two of their EPs sploshed together, re-recorded, very good, much better than I think either of us anticipated being. But I don't think it's a proper album. Quote unquote.
It's not a proper album.
It's really good though, actually.
It is good. No one's saying it's not good.
No.
But it's very good, actually. But I've actually been a fan of Venom Prison for quite a long time, and I think they've always had a really uniquely specific sound and feel in comparison with many of their contemporaries. That, to me, being, as I sort of hinted at the start of this podcast, that mixture of proper kind of old school sounding gnarly death metal and the wild abandon and snotty in your face whatever of punk rock.
Yeah, I can see that. I've always sort of cautiously liked Venom Prison. I think I have maybe not been as enthusiastic as some of my peers, I think you included, mainly because whilst I can see that they are great at what they do, a really very, very, very good, what I would say is a relatively straight-ahead death metal band, it hasn't really struck me as being much more than that.
You think they're a bit of a one-trick pony then, right?
I don't... Well, I actually... What I would have said is I always had a suspicion that they were capable of more, but they weren't showing it, is what I would have said.
Okay. I mean, it's a criticism that it's not just you that I've heard this criticism for, that they are fairly, again, I think one trick pony, one note, always felt a little bit harsh to me, but I understand it. You know, I get it. There is, for some people, only so much of this type of thing that you can stomach. Yeah. I guess, that you want.
Well, to give an example, I remember we reviewed the last record, Samsara, on this podcast with Serena from Svalbard and Jamila from Ithaca, actually. And the three of you were really, really super positive about it, didn't have anything particularly negative to say about it at all. And I came in being like, I think this is really good, but it feels quite one-dimensional for me. And by the end of the album, I get a little bit bored of it, a little bit tired of it, I would say. You know,
and I think that's fine. You know, like I say, some people have greater and smaller amounts of stuff they can stomach of a certain type of thing, of anything really, of literally anything. Yeah. And
I do think they're fantastic, though. I think I've always thought they're really good.
Yeah, and I think, you know, like, I'll admit that going into this record, I did feel slightly trepidatious, because even I, as someone who likes heavy music quite a lot,
death metal in particular, we should say.
Yeah, I really like death metal. I have a tolerance you know, I have just a tolerance to this style that will last only so long.
Yeah.
You know? And I think when you get people... Look, I like death metal a lot, but I'm not one of those people who go, Cannibal Corpse are the best band of last year.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, if the year's 1992, then maybe, but they've not really done... I mean,
even then,
probably not. But like, I get it for death metal, like Cannibal Corpse, they're fucking great. They're fucking great. Do I need 20 Cannibal Corpse albums? No, I need about 3.
Exactly,
and that's fine, and that'll do me.
Yeah,
and you know, but there are death metal bands that I am like, give me all the records. Like we did a special on Morbid Angel, and I think you could argue that even when Morbid Angel aren't at their best, they're at least doing something sort of varied from sort of record to record.
Precisely. I think Morbid Angel are a really good example of a death metal band who have done lots of various things throughout their career and have changed it up from album to album. And Death as well, obviously, as we've discussed before.
Oh, definitely Death. Yeah, Death. They'd be the two like that I would probably go. They're the ones, aren't they?
Yeah.
So, you know, I did think to myself, am I going to need 3 albums of Venom Prison doing the same thing? At some point I'm going to get a little bit bored of it.
Quite.
But this is different, isn't it?
It's mighty different, and I have to admit, I'm going to confess that the promo had sat in my inbox for a short while before I went to it, because my excitement for a new Venom Prison album was, I'd say, middling. Like, I was excited to hear it, but I was just like, okay, it's probably going to be another Venom Prison album that sounds like the previous 2. Very quickly, from the press release, which I have read, guitarist Ash Gray had this to say of this particular album. He said, everything needed to be bigger, better, catchier. We have said many times in the past that this band will not write the same record over and over again. It wasn't about showing how heavy we can be. We know we're a heavy ass band. We just wanted to be more creative, and this time we had the luxury of having time on our side. Now, you get things like that being said in press releases all the fucking time. And 90% of the time, it just isn't true. I mean, I feel so sorry for the person who has to write these press releases for bands who, you know, the latest Cannibal Corpse record, for example, because what do you say? What is new to say about a new Cannibal Corpse record? There's no diss on Cannibal Corpse. At their best, I think they're fucking amazing. But how do you do that? And I kind of read it. I was like, yeah, okay, fine. Well, we'll see, won't we? I pressed play on it, and it is immediately apparent that Venom Prison are doing something pretty different here, but something that I still very much think exists brilliantly and perfectly within the Venom Prison world.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, we're not going to go through it kind of track by track by track, I don't think, on each individual track. But I think it's probably worth pointing out the really, really big sort of surprises. I think you get, like you say, I think this record is very good at easing you in to the changes that are going to happen. Because you get I wouldn't want to call it a fairly standard start. I think there's a few things from the opening couple of songs where you're like, that's different.
Definitely.
That's definitely different. Choiry bits.
Yeah.
You know, a little bit more arch enemy kind of Swedish melodicism.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
Melodicism, it'll do. I know what you mean. The odd clean vocal here and there.
Yeah.
Some quite power metal-y bits almost. There's the dueling guitar solo in Comfort of Complicity, which I think is the 3rd track, is like something out of Top Gun or something. I mean, it's awesome.
Nemesis is the 3rd track, and you've basically skipped ahead.
I apologise.
From where I was going to go.
That's fine.
Because I think, like, look, basically, the first couple of songs, there's, you know, they're just so fucking good. doing this hardened death metal thing, that I was like, I still found myself going, there's a few little extra bits, but ultimately, man, this sounds like Venom Prison. And what a lovely place to be. What a lovely place to be in. And then, on the record's third track, Nemesis, you get this weird sort of lurking sci-fi thing that happens in the background. And that was when I was like, well, I never saw that coming. I just didn't see that coming. Do you know what I mean? I was like, the power metal-y bit, the kind of more like explosive solos and stuff, I was like, that feels like a good little addition to what they've been doing. But when it got to that point, I was like, you know, they've eased you in a bit, but that's weird. That shit that's going on in the background, that's fucking weird. And they ease you in slowly, which makes a lot of sense, because then you get to Comfort of Complicity, and it's great. You know, the solo again is fucking great. And I thought to myself, I wonder if, you know, we're just going to have tiny little incremental changes throughout bits and bobs of this record. And then you get to Pain of Aussies.
Aussies? Yeah.
Aussies? Yeah.
That's where it really takes a turn. It really, really takes a turn, doesn't it?
You are
at that point,
dragged kicking and screaming into the new Venom Prison. I think it's the most different that they've ever sounded on anything ever.
Yeah.
And it's far more melodic. It's far more clean. It's got kind of picked guitar parts. Piano, Remfry?
Piano.
Great on the Venom
piano.
Prison.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it sounds like symphonic metal. And I was nearly said symphonic black metal. It doesn't sound like symphonic black metal. It sounds like symphonic metal. It sounds like your Within Temptations and your Night Wishes and those kind of things, which we don't really like.
No, not particularly.
But I like this.
I fucking love this. I think it's absolutely brilliant. There's a weird sort of trip hop style beat that they put into it as well. And like you say, there's clean guitars, clean singing, and like, don't get us. This is absolutely a metal song, and it absolutely becomes a metal song. Venom Prison haven't thrown the baby out with the bathwater at all, but they're bringing in so many different elements and so many different other things to their palette and expanding it into something far more interesting than the fairly straight ahead death metal that they were doing before, which, let me reiterate, was very, very good, and they've always been very, very good at it. But this is on a different scale, on a different level entirely. This is one of the clearest step ups that a band has taken from one record to the next that I can think of maybe since the Loathe record, from The Cold Sun to I Let It In and It Took Everything. You know, it's a huge step up, and so much more interesting as a result.
Yeah, and it just means as well, when you get those kind of high, clean lead lines that Larissa's doing, this kind of clean, ethereal singing parts, and which I had no idea she could do.
Yeah, exactly, and very well as well. Really very well. And when she does come back in, or when the band come in with the right amount of ferocity, it's fucking awesome. Exactly. Yeah.
It just makes it sound so heavy. It's great. It's fucking great.
I will say as well, for this review, yesterday I played this through, and then I went back to Animus. And, you know, Animus is like a constant punch to the face over and over and over again. But because I found myself tiring of it towards the end, it just kind of, it loses its power after 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes. To give them credit, I mean, Animus is a very short record. It's only about 33 minutes. But what I thought was really interesting about this album's 49 minutes long. It's the longest Venom Prison album by a comfortable distance. I think Samsara was around 42. And It is the only Venom Prison album that I have heard that has kept my interest from beginning to end, because of the variation and because of the different things that are going on. And you're right, when it does rev up again and become really, really heavy in Pain of Osiris, it sounds, you know, because I've had a palate cleanser, it sounds really heavy again. And it doesn't, I think bore me is the wrong word for this kind of thing, because there's so much going on that you're not bored, but you just, you know, I just get fatigued by it, and it loses its power as a result. But that is not the case with this album at all.
No.
Because of the sheer breadth of it. It's brilliant. It's so cool.
It's really great to hear, and it was a real legit shock. And it kind of carries on a bit with the golden age of the Hesperides, which is fucking amazing. I might hate this, but it's got like a new metal opening guitar part. I was like, all right, here's new metal. But then it goes into something far more classic Venom Prison sounding. And it has the most almighty breakdown.
Yes.
Right. Now, ammo for us who actually like breakdowns here. I mean, I like them done well.
Exactly, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I like them done well. And I think people just going 0-1-0-1 and going, good, put that in a song, and then shout. And then everybody stops and a crash cymbal comes in and the singer goes, oh, fuck your mom and shit, or whatever. And you go like, oh, yes, that's definitely better than, you know, whatever these fucking hardcore morons say on, it's better than David Bowie. No, he's not.
I wouldn't piss in your ass if your shit was on fire, for example. It's a Rob Flynn one. Yeah, thank you.
The Rob Flynn one. And you know, and it's crap. And then it just after that, it just goes mental. That song, it just goes absolutely fucking mental. Like blasting parts. There's a big Kerry King soloing thing, and it's got this fucking huge groove on it. It is excellent, that song. It's really excellent.
Whilst you've reminded me, I wanted to say a quick word on the solos. I think every single guitar solo on this record really adds something to the song, which is exactly what a guitar solo is meant to do. It's meant to take the song to another dimension. And I agree totally, like that solo is brilliant, but every single solo.
Pay close attention.
Are you reprimanding me or?
No, I was just doing that. I thought you were doing the song.
But every solo on this album, every moment of it is not wasted at all. There's nothing wasted on any of the solos, and I think that. I mean, sometimes in death metal, it is just the Kerry King whittling thing, isn't it, really? And sometimes that can lift a song, but sometimes it doesn't. But I don't feel like that's the case with this record at all. Yeah. Every solo is on point.
It's really good. I think the addition of, there's clean vocals, there's some more of that, there's more of that kind of sci-fi synth stuff coming on, castigated in steel and violence. And it feels like that is, seems to mimic... or follow many of the lyrics that are dealing with a lot of sort of mass control within society, and it's got that kind of dystopian future thing and globalization and the mass media, whatever. Like some of the lyrics are, it's a death metal record. These are brutal lyrics. Ash actually said in the press notes, Remfry, I read the press notes too.
There we go.
He said it's even more poetic while still critical of the issues we face in Western society. And I do think lyricists has always been good at writing lyrics, and on this occasion you can actually hear a few without having to read them off a sheet as well, aren't you? So that's good as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And just what you were saying about the electronics there's a few moments where electronic bits and pieces come into this record a little bit later on a song called Gorgon Sisters in particular. Like there's some really interesting,
that is fucking massive, that song.
Brilliant.
Fucking massive. That is a fast as fuck savage banger.
It
with
is
weird ambient shit happening towards the end of
exactly, but that it was that whole thing of it. Yeah, I mean, it starts brilliantly, but when it goes into that weird ambient shit at the end, you know, like I said, the electronics really feel like a part of Venom Prison's world. It doesn't feel like they've just chucked it in there, you know, for the sake of it, and it feels very much a part of them and a part of their sound. I'm certain that there will be people who will moan at the extra bits and pieces that have been put into this record, because there just always is in this scene. I mean, fuck those people. This record is it is comfortably the best record Venom Prison have released, and it's because they've expanded their palette and they've made their best album not by a whisker but by an absolute metric ton, and it's because of all these extra elements that they've put in, and the cool electronics and the clean singing, strings towards the end. I mean, that very last song has some amazing strings on it. And yeah, 50 minutes. I mean, a 50-minute there's very few 50-minute death metal records which are going to keep my attention for the whole thing. But this one does.
Feels like Gorgon Sisters feels like the sort of thing towards the end is like, oh, that's where a metal band will stick that as the last song and go, look how expansive and
we are,
experimental we are. And it's like, well, you're not really.
Yeah.
You're not, are you? You've just put that, tagged that on the end of your album. And we always moan about that quite a lot. And they whack them throughout the record. And that's a sign of a band who are not just going, oh shit, we got to close the album. Well, let's do something different. And then we can say it's like To Pimp a Butterfly when it's not. And you know, and I think Venom Prison have done that very well here. I think, you know, the last track with, you know, what's it called, Technologies of Death, which has got this proper old school Morbid Angel massive banger, but it's also got this kind of clean sounding, like Master of Puppetsy Metallica bit as well in the middle, and it's got like, it's a perfect way for them to transition from a band who'd been doing one thing into a band who can do something broader and more interesting. And it just opens Venom Prison up to a whole new world of possibilities. And I don't think it should alienate any of their fan base, really. Because like I say, there's still Morbid Angel comparisons that can be made from this bit. And this is still an extreme metal record.
Yeah.
It's definitely an extreme metal record. But it's got so much more depth and breadth and dynamics, and that's just better. It's just better to have those things.
You already know that I agree with you because I've been banging that drum for quite a long time. I absolutely agree. I don't think it should alienate anyone. I just, you know, I've grown up around metal fans for a long time, and I know that sometimes they can be sticklers for what they want. But I completely agree with you. I think the whole thing with this album is it absolutely still remains a product of Venom Prison, and it doesn't feel like all of these new bits that they have brought in, I don't think any of them are done badly. You know, sometimes when there's a sort of bit of a transition record, there are bits where you're kind of like, you've attempted that and fair play to you for attempting it, but you haven't quite pulled it off. I'll admit, the first time I heard the record, when Pain of Osius came in, I was a little bit like, ooh, I don't know about this. But by the second time round, I was like, no, I'm in on this. This is actually brilliant. And I feel that the more and more that I listen to it. And I feel like the hype that the underground hype, very much an underground hype, but the underground hype that Venom Prison had before, I don't want to say it was misplaced, but I didn't ever fully get it. But now that they've released this record, I think this album is absolutely deserving of the hype that Venom Prison have had in the past, and I hope that continues now, because this is next level shit, in my opinion, like, undoubtedly.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, saying that more depth and breadth and dynamics makes a record better, I mean, it only actually makes it better if you can pull it off.
Exactly.
If you fuck it up, like Suicide Silence did, for example, then it actually doesn't make it better, it makes it worse. And I got to say, you know, when I first heard it, I was like, if they carry on, like, I was just sort of stunned at first. And then I was like, are they going to be able to pull this off? Are they actually going to be able to pull this off? Because for me, like you say, you were a bit sort of unsure about the hype. For me, I think when you're that brilliant at that one thing, there are some bands who are just so brilliant at doing that one thing that they get away with it. Like, I mean, Cannibal Corpse, they do that one thing brilliantly, and they do it like, I know, we've already sort of gone, do you really need X amount of Cannibal? It's like, you don't really, but I never put a Cannibal Corpse on our album on and go, this sucks or whatever, because when you listen, it's just, how often am I going to listen to everything they've ever done? Probably not loads. Yeah,
and there was a chance that Venom Prison could have turned into that, couldn't they? They could have turned into a band who were incredibly good at what they did, but they didn't go outside of those boundaries all that often. And I think consequently, I would have always admired them, but I would have never loved anything that they've done. And prior to this record, I've liked everything Venom Prison have done, but I've never loved anything they've done. But that has changed now because of this.
I'm just so delighted to be shocked and surprised by a record like this, because, as I said, this isn't just throwing a load of shit at a wall and seeing if it sticks.
Yeah,
I mean, it's genuinely pulling those things off brilliantly. And I think, there might be a few people who were maybe a bit scared that this would be more mainstream or not as metal and blah, blah, blah. But for me, I actually think the people that looked at Venom Prison and went, too much. There's going to be loads of people who went, bored. This is too much. This is fucking too much. Yeah. And this is now a really interesting route into the band. And without them relinquishing any of their own personality or unique style that they had, I don't think they've relinquished any of their own personality, any of their own style, any of the things that made those first two albums so great. But at the same time, I can now imagine people who previously might have, people who saw them at Trivium, at Brixton Academy, who just stood there and went, oh my God. They came on and they played half an hour and they strobed the shit out of everyone and just went for a fucking half an hour. And Trivium, your kind of average Common or Garden Trivium fan would probably went, I don't want that in my face ever again. Yeah. And, and now you might be able to go up to that guy and go, remember you had that weird, you weren't sure? Well,
look what they've
listen
done.
to this.
Yeah.
Great record. Great fucking record. I mean, best metal record of the year so far. I know it's early days and we're only into the sort of second month of the year, but thus far, in terms of a metal record, I think this is going to be this is a pretty high bar for us to start on. Because we've not really spoken about much metal yet.
We haven't yet. It's the best straight down the line metal record, I would say.
Not even that straight, is it?
But then, it isn't. But it isn't straight down the line. I mean, there's other ones that I'm thinking of in my head which aren't out yet and are coming out. Blah blah blah. That I think
Remfry received his promo of the Aaron Lewis album. That's not a metal record at all, is it?
Which I will say that I personally prefer, but they are actually quite different to what this is and what it's doing. So it's undoubtedly a record which is essential for anyone that is into metal. And even if you've heard Venom Prison stuff in the past and been a little bit unsure, it's definitely worth checking this album out because it could well change your mind.
I agree. I think it's proper fucking excellent. Yes, and it is the best. As someone who has liked and nigh on loved everything that they've done before, I think this is easily their best record.
Comfortably, would you say?
Well, I just said easily, so I think that's
that'll do, won't it? Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah.
All right.
So, I mean, yeah, definitely without doubt for me, the best Venom Prison record, I would say.
Yeah. Double thumbs up.
9 out of 10, I'd be giving it.
I think it probably does deserve 9 out of 10. Yeah. Not that we do scores on here, but yeah, if I'd been given it for Hammer, I think 9 out of 10 is very fair for this album.
Yeah,
it's a huge step up.
Yeah. Well, good. Anyway, thanks very much for listening. That is what we're saying about Erebos by Venom Prison. We'll be back soon. We're going to be doing reviews on new albums by Korn, Black Country New Road, Rolo Tomasi, and lots of other people. Can't think of anyone else off the top of my head. I want to think someone funny then.
After that, we're doing Cult of Luna.
Cult of Luna. Cult of Boona. That's if I was going to have a curry house, I would call it Cult of Boona.
Very few, but that would be very niche, wouldn't it? Like a post-metal curry house.
Yeah, should have saved it for the Cult of Luna review, really. But, you know, here we are. You got to jump to learn, haven't you, Remfry? All right, see you later, everyone. Thank you very much for listening. We'll speak to you soon.